Coach, what are your first impressions of your safeties so far in spring camp?
Probably the most impressive thing, and not to anyone's surprise, is just how hard they work. As a total unit, as a team, coach, both Coach Niamat, obviously in the past, and Coach New now have, instilled such a great culture here that it's super impressive. I've coached a lot of places. I've been around a long time, but the culture here is outstanding, and it is with our group and in our position.
Now, you individually coach the safeties. What's your role in the whole scheme of things defensively as defensive passing game coordinator?
We all work together, but I specifically I work with the safeties, obviously, and then just making sure everything's coordinated between myself, Coach Green, who coaches the corners, and obviously, getting done what Coach Volker and Coach New want. So just making sure everything's all tied together.
When you look at the athletes that you have, I know over the 4 years that he's been here, Coach Newberry's been looking for longer, faster players. Do you get a sense of the type of player that he wants in his defense right now on the roster for you?
I do. We've talked about that quite extensively. We have some younger guys that are going to be coming up through the system. Some of them were at NAP. Some of them are 2023 signees. And then we obviously have some guys on our team currently already that fit that mold. And, we're just working to make sure everyone's the best they can be. We have Rayuan Lane, obviously, who's played quite a bit of ball here the past few years. He's excellent. And, he's a longer, stronger, more athletic guy. And, we're always looking for that. And, as is everyone else in the country, obviously.
Thanks, Coach.
Wags.
Good to see you, Coach Lewis. How are you? Welcome to Annapolis.
Good. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
How are you adjusting so far?
Good. It's been an easy transition. Really good staff, great guys on the team, and it's a lot nicer living in Annapolis than it is in Bowling Green, Ohio.
So. Well, what led you to make this move, Coach? I know you've had a very decorated career, and what brings you to Annapolis to the Naval Academy? What led you to decide to accept this position?
So I've known Coach Volker for a long time. We worked together years ago at Georgia State for a few seasons, and we've stayed in touch throughout the years. And he's constantly told me that this is the greatest place to coach in the country. And he's been on me since day one, since he's gotten here. And since I've been here, he's been right. It's a great environment. Great university, great academics, awesome place to live. Coming in every day and getting to see the sunshine off the water is beautiful. So I'm a California guy, so it's nice to have some sea breeze coming in every once in a while.
So you've been named the defensive passing game coordinator. Navy had some issues last season. I'm sure you've watched the film, and they had the ball thrown over their heads quite a bit, way too often. I mean, Coach Newberry and every other previous defensive coordinator at Navy has talked about the importance of not letting the ball get thrown over your head. That's kind of been a priority. And so for it to happen as often as it did was alarming. Well, what are some of your goals? How do you correct that?
I think just with anything else, you have to acknowledge the problem. We know it was an issue last year. We're trying to make some schematic changes to help that out, and just making sure that the players understand the situations. We go against a lot of teams in this conference that are really pass happy. There's some very good offenses, some very good athletes, especially at the wide receiver position in this conference. So we really need to just make an emphasis every day, in meetings and practice. And obviously on game day to play top down to keep our leverage both horizontally and vertically, and making sure that no matter what happens, we cannot give up explosive plays in the pass game. So we talk about it a lot. We drill it a lot, and it's a major point of emphasis every day in practice for us.
So in your view from watching tape, what were the issues? I mean, obviously Coach Newberry runs a high risk, defensive scheme. Sometimes when you're blitzing, you're going to leave corners out on islands, but that doesn't mean that they should be getting beaten all the time. I mean, have you identified a few things you feel fundamentally, technique-wise, need to be adjusted?
I would say the number one thing is just being disciplined with our eyes. Your eye discipline and your eye progression is going to do two things. It's going to allow you to play fast, and then it's going to allow you to be more consistent. And that's probably the biggest area that we're trying to focus on. I think when guys are looking at the right thing, they tend to be in much better position. And you are right. We play a very aggressive style of defense, which is going to benefit us at times. And at times you're going to occasionally be susceptible to some big plays, but we're conscious of it. The players are conscious of it. And, we all know it's a point of emphasis for us defensively this year.
And you've got a decent amount of returning talent back there. What are some of your thoughts on the players you're working with? I mean, both corners and safeties. I know you're coaching safeties directly, but as defensive passing game coordinator, you've got to kind of be attuned to all of them, I imagine.
Correct. We definitely have a good amount of talent, a good amount of experience. When you talk about giving up big plays previously, that's a part of it. When you have more experienced guys, it's a huge benefit. Young guys tend to be a little more undisciplined, a little more greedy. Sometimes they get in the game and they become overly aggressive and try to make plays that they don't have any business trying to make. But we do have a bunch of returning guys. I mentioned Rayuan Lane earlier. He's an excellent athlete, a leader in the back end for us. I really expect very big things from him from a safety position. We have Evan Givens, who's played quite a bit as well at the bandit position, which is our boundary safety. Jackson Campbell is a young player who's very athletic. For a guy like him and some of the younger players, it's just a matter of getting some of those valuable team reps. We have Joe Hudson, who's come along well. He may be having the best spring so far of any of the safeties. And then at the corner position, obviously we have Elias Larry. We have a few guys that are a little bit banged up and injured. Deshaun, who we expect to be coming back here, fairly shortly. But we have a bit of experience and some talented guys back there. So we just want to clean up some of the consistency and the discipline issues we've had as far as our eye progression. And I think that'll benefit us, tremendously here going forward.
Thanks, Coach.
Pete Medhurst.
Coach, for you and any other assistant coming into a new situation, what are the one or two things that you're trying to glean from this particular opportunity with spring football as you try to evaluate players, but also teach what you all want to get done at the same time?
The thing it's all going to start and end with, we call it Elite Eat, effort, attitude, and toughness. And we just want to make sure that's on display every single day. That's our edge. That's how the Navy football program has been successful, and it's how we're going to continue to be successful here. So regardless of the techniques or the schemes, our effort, our attitude, our toughness are going to be the things that we need to make sure is continually instilled in our players. As long as we have that, we think we have a chance. We say we prepare, we practice, and we play harder than anyone in the country. And, that's just what we have to do to be successful. As far as the technique and scheme and all that kind of stuff, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So it's just making sure we all get on the same page. Coach New and Coach Volker have worked together for years now. I've worked with Coach Volker in the past. So from that standpoint, the transition's not very difficult. Everyone's been around, everyone has quite a bit of experience. So it's just making sure we're all on the same page.
How much do you lean on those coaches who have been here, and yet at the same time, you're trying to establish relationships to really form your own opinions about the players you're coaching right now?
One thing that I really appreciate, and I talked to Coach Volker about this actually last week, is he intentionally didn't tell me a lot about some of the players, just so I could come in, with a clean slate and kind of, make my own opinions about guys. And I always think that's good. When you do have a coaching change and a transition, whether it be a position coach or a head coaching change, it's a fresh start for everybody. So some of the guys I'm sure will benefit from that. And sometimes I think it's hard. You have preconceived notions of guys because you saw them make dumb mistakes as freshmen. Maybe they lack the maturity in a lot of ways as younger players. And now they're juniors, they're seniors, and they're different. They're different young men, they're different athletes. And, I think it's good to have a fresh set of eyes on some guys and some new opinions.
How tough is it to establish and just to talk about the individual relationship question, to establish that trust? And is that just something that you're going to know? It's just going to click. It's going to develop. You're going to see that with those guys, with the interactions. I mean, how long does that process take, in your mind, and to try and develop that trust in those relationships with those players?
That's the most important thing we have with coaches and players, our relationship, the bond you create. It takes time though. There's no way really to rush it. We try to spend as much time as we can around the players here. Here at Navy, it's much more difficult, to be frank. That's probably my biggest challenge, is I'm not used to having players with such rigorous schedules. No offense to any other fine academic institution that I may have worked at before. All right. But our guys here actually take real classes. They're in physics, they're in multiple calculus classes, they're in nuclear propulsion. So they have stuff to do outside of just hanging out in my office all afternoon, which is great. It's great for their future, but it does make it a little more difficult to build those relationships and those bonds that will be created over time. We all understand the situation. We have to be more concise. We have to be more intentional about our coaching in terms of spending time with those guys away from football as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We'll make another trip around. Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, what's the challenge for you coaching safeties, not only in a league that throws the ball like they do in the American Athletic Conference, but also with the big focus you must have as a service academy, facing the run and the option with both Air Force and Army?
That is something that I'm definitely getting used to already. Going against our offense in spring is definitely unique for me. You're getting ready for two extraordinarily important games, with the CIC games that we play. That is always in the back of our mind, but we also have to spend quite a bit of time in practice getting ready for spread offenses, getting ready for explosive receivers, whether it be at SMU or Tulsa or Tulane or Notre Dame in game one. So we do a really good job, and we're really intentional about managing our time in practice. But it is definitely unique in terms of splitting your focus between option football and then what has now become more conventional football, being spread out all over the field and throwing the ball.
And finally, for me, what are your responsibilities going to be when it comes to recruiting? And are you looking to play off some of the experience you've had in the past, maybe in the area where you're going to be recruiting?
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I've coached a lot of different places and a lot of different areas of the country, which really comes in helpful, comes in handy here where we recruit 50 states. Me personally, I'm going to have a few states in the Midwest. I have Michigan, Indiana, and Kentucky, and I also have San Diego. Southern California obviously is a major hub for the Navy. So we have a lot of alumni there, and we're popular there. So and it's always good to be able to go recruit somewhere sunny and warm.
Yeah. Good luck, Coach. We'll see you at practice.
Thank you.
Can't beat the Hoosier State. I'm just putting a plug in right now. Bill Wagner.
Yeah, that'll be a quick stop.
So in terms of passing game coordination, you also bring in linebackers. I mean, so are you are you going to be holding separate meetings that involves everyone involved with pass defense? Because you got other people dropping back into coverage at times.
Typically, I won't be meeting with the linebackers. Most of that stuff, the coordination kind of things are done in meetings between the coaching staff. So that'll be something that we just talk about as a defensive staff when we get together. We have spent probably much more time meeting as a entire defensive back unit, the safeties and the corners, and we call our strikers occasionally, our outside backers. So the meeting isn't too much different, besides all the DBs meeting at once, probably a lot more this spring than we have in the past. The linebackers typically meet with Coach Volker. And if we meet as a total unit, we'll all be together, including the defensive line. Passing game coordinator, your best friend's the defensive line. So let's not forget about them.
So obviously, your father is a renowned coach, and congratulations to him on his recent honor from the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
But what have you learned from him? And obviously, he was an offensive guy more so, but he was also a head coach. But what have you learned from him, and how does the knowledge that you receive from your dad help you as a defensive coach?
Well, little known fact, my dad actually coached defense for 14 years in college. I know he's much more well known for his days in the NFL as an offensive coach and offensive coordinator. But he was a defensive coordinator at Michigan State for a while in the late 70s and 80s. Probably the biggest thing and the key piece of advice he gave me was just learn from everybody. Every single person on staff has a strength. Every player has something that they bring to the table, and to never disregard that. I've coached at a lot of different places, and he always made a point to talk to me before I got somewhere and said, pay attention to who the good coaches are and take something from them. And I think I have, and it's helped me, tremendously over the years. We talk a little bit about scheme here and there, just what affects offenses, what he's found effective in the pass game. But more than anything, it's just your style of coaching, coach within your personality, and then make sure you're learning, you're continuously learning from other coaches.
So Coach Newberry has always been involved with secondary. He played in the secondary at Baylor. He's always usually coached secondary, even when he was a D coordinator. How much do you collaborate with him? I know he has a vision for how he wants things to look back there, and he's now entrusting you to help build that vision.
We talk quite a bit. He's often in the defensive meetings, both as a defensive staff and sometimes in the position meetings. I actually really like it. For the last number of years, I've been the only defensive back coach on staff at all. So it's really nice to have somebody with experience that you can bounce ideas off of. He obviously has a vision of how he views a defense and the goals and priorities of each coverage. So it's really good to have a clear and concise voice in there, just to bounce ideas off of, to share past history with. So I really enjoyed it. It's the first time, again, I've been on staff with somebody that's been another defensive back coach in quite some time. So it's been great so far.
Last for me, so I mentioned your dad. Do you think he'll come to Annapolis and maybe check out Navy football? I don't know if he's been to Annapolis before.
He has not, actually. He will be at some practices and at some games. I'm sure they'll be out here this summer, but I know they'll be at a couple of the home games as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I don't have a great record when he's come to games, so I got to be very careful of what games he comes to. I had to ban him from about 4 seasons because things weren't going so hot when he showed up.
Pete Medhurst.
Just make sure he schedules a vacation early in December then, Eric.
No question. I know what game he's not going to.
Just one more for me. Every time a coach moves, there's an element of risk, certainly, to it. Why this staff and why the Naval Academy?
A number of things. Again, Coach Volker has been speaking to me about Coach New and the Naval Academy for several years now. I trust him tremendously, and he had nothing but great things to say about it. The reputation as well. Things have changed in college football, right? With the transfer rule, with NILs, and this is kind of like the last bastion of hope, being here and not having to deal with that stuff nearly as much. The kids and the culture is something that, especially as you get older as a coach, you really learn to appreciate. I hear a lot of coaches, I laugh at, go up to the podium, especially head coaches, and talk about how great their culture is and this and that. But until they come here and they watch a practice and they see how we operate on a day-to-day basis, they have absolutely no idea what it's like. So I'm super excited. I couldn't have been more, more sure about a career decision in my entire life. Getting the opportunity to work here at the academy with these kids, with these players at this university, and to work for Coach New, it wasn't that hard of a decision.
Ray, why don't you kind of tell us how the spring is going so far? It's a new staff in a lot of ways, some changes, new D coordinator, new safeties coach for you. Kind of how's things going?
So far, I'll say things are going pretty well. As you know, we got new coaches, a lot of new staff here, but I feel like we're able to get to the swing of things pretty quickly. As far as like spring ball and everything like that, it's been pretty competitive for sure. Offense is doing some cool things on that side of the ball that we're not necessarily used to seeing. So just getting to go in and compete against them has definitely been fun. It seems like everyone's learning, like the young guys as far as the old guys, everyone's learning a great amount and having fun and competing. So far spring ball is going pretty well.
What's it like working with Coach Lewis? He comes with quite a pedigree. He's been around. He's a veteran guy. How's it going for you working with him at the safeties position?
It's definitely awesome. I mean, he's only been here for a short period of time so far, but I've learned so much already, and just like with different drills, seeing different things, understanding how offenses are trying to attack, and just the little tidbits that he talks about in the safety room is awesome.
Coach Newberry talked about both Coach Volker and Coach Newberry talked about your versatility and moving you around to different spots. It was mentioned that perhaps you could get a look at striker at times. Without giving away state secrets, are you being moved around, and are they looking to take advantage of your versatility?
I would say definitely, and just as far as me, I'm definitely like open to trying different things out and fitting in wherever they need be, whether it be safety or striker or whatever. I'm always up for the job. I always got my eyes open, trying to compete wherever I can and however I can make the team the best possible way.
Last for me before I pass it off to someone else. Last season were some issues with the ball getting thrown over your all's heads, deep passes completed. The reason Coach Lewis has been given the title of defensive passing coordinator is to eliminate that. What are you guys doing from a player standpoint to make sure that does not happen as often in 2023?
Yeah, so one of the big things is as a DB group, so safeties and corners, we meet together now pretty often, just so like we can all get on the same page and things like that. We can talk through communications. We can see how each other see different things. So we're able to have each other's backs on the back end. And then as well as just changing a few things like logistically and coverages and certain lineups and matchups and just different things like that. So we've been working on that, and I definitely think it will be much different this season than it was last year.
All right, let's go to Scott Wyckoff.
Ray, what did you learn the most, and what was your biggest takeaway that you think is going to help you out this year, being a starter in each and every game last season?
I think what I learned most is really that it's a new play every single down. No matter what happens on the previous down, you come out and you can learn like that really has no effect. Like whatever happens, that particular play is in your hands. You can't control what happened before, but you can definitely control what's happening like in the present, what's now. So just getting that off your mind on the next down, getting a clean slate and just attacking, knowing your cues, knowing everything, and just going as hard as you can so that you can make an effect on the play any way possible.
Because you played so much football in your first 2 years at Navy, both in your plebe season and last year, does that make it easier to see the field now? Do things slow down a little bit that you're noticing in spring ball?
Yes, most definitely. As you can see, like 2 years in, you start to see the same things over and over and over again. You start to see different tendencies in certain formations or how somebody lines up or different things like that. And that allows you to move much more faster because you actually understand what's going on. Also, like how the offense is trying to attack you and just those kind of nuances and things like that. So it definitely makes everything move in slow motion and could speed up my play for sure.
And when they say you guys are going live in spring practice, it really looks that way. When you're going against the first offense, it looks very spirited and like you guys are battling a real foe out there.
Yep, it's all about competing. We love to compete, so whenever we get a chance to go live, it's rough. We're getting it in for sure.
And is that a nice part of being able to do that in the spring when you don't have a game to prepare for each week, knowing that each day in practice you might have that little game to have?
Most definitely. But I think for the most part, I mean, whether having a game or not, we always approach it the same way as far as like how we come and practice and compete. But I just think like in the spring is definitely that way too, just getting to compete because we haven't put on pads for so long. So just being able to get out there and run on the field and challenge each other and talk a little bit trash to each other is definitely fun.
Thanks, Ray.
Wags, back to you.
Well, Ray, how are you looking to personally improve? I mean, if you could critique yourself from last season, mistakes you may have made, things that you could have done better, what are you looking to improve on personally?
I feel like the biggest thing is probably my eyes. I feel like they've gotten better, but I feel like they've gotten better since last year. But I think there's still more improvement to do. Just seeing my cues and understanding what's going on, and then as well as just overall pretty much like my pedals, just everything that comes with being on the defensive side of the ball. I really want to improve.
So we saw last season John Marshall make a tremendous leap to being a real dominant type of player, an All-American Athletic Conference player. I believe the coaching staffs from the coaches from Coach Newberry to Coach Volker to Coach Lewis all believe you have that ability. How important is it for you to make that jump and become a guy that's a real dominant player on every single down?
Most definitely. I think it's definitely important. I would say that the bigger thing is just doing whatever I can to definitely like boost the team in any way possible. So I would say it's not as much about I would say like personal game, but more of what I can bring to the team so that the team as a whole can be the best in any possible position.
And so I know, you're not a senior, but you're a junior that's played a lot of football here. Do you feel like you need to be a leader? I would imagine you got to be a leader back there on the back end.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think most of my leading comes from just showing the guys how different things are done. As far as the back end, we have a leader in Gibby. He's very vocal. I wouldn't say I'm that much of a vocal person, but as far as just being over there, doing the right things and leading by example is how I choose to lead for the team.
Thanks.
Pete, I know you're driving. You got any questions or are you just listening? Okay. Anyone have anything else? Last call for Ray. Scott,
Well,
Wags.
Obviously, there's a transition here. Coach Volker's taking over. Now, I know Coach Newberry wants to run the defense similar to what he's done, but I mean, there's some new coaches in place. How important is it for you all as players to build on what you did last season? Last season was successful for Navy defense. You put up good numbers across the board. How important is it to build on that and not go backwards?
I think that's definitely the most important thing, and I definitely think that we're going to build for sure. I just see how we attack all the off-season workouts. We're attacking spring ball. We're competing. We're doing all the things the right way. We're practicing with Elite E. We're talking with each other. We're doing everything the right way. So I definitely feel like that we're going to go in the right direction for sure.
And last for me, Coach Lewis talked about some of the young safeties. He mentioned Jackson Campbell in particular. Do you feel like you got some good young safeties back there with you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And they're learning fast, which is the real exciting part. Not only are they athletic, but they're learning fast and they're coming to compete every single day, which is really exciting.
Just one more for
Any
me.
ma-
One
Go
more
ahead,
for me.
Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more for me, Ray. Now that your second year's winding down, what are your plans once the school year's over to do this summer before you head into your junior year on the football field?
As far as
Are you able to get away and kind of get away from football, lifting, playbooks, and things of that sort?
definitely. I don't live too far away, so I would definitely be enjoying some time with my family, especially my little brother, because he's going to be leaving here soon in another year. So I would definitely be taking some of that time just to spend with him, spend with my family, and just relax and get my mind right for the upcoming season.
And how important has that been to you to have your family nearby to be able to experience your Naval Academy journey along with you?
I mean, oh man, it's really awesome. I mean, even as far as football, getting to see them at every single game, well, every single home game in the stands, seeing them cheering for me, and being able to go home on the weekends and getting a home cooked meal and just chilling with them and having that family time is definitely awesome, and it goes a long way for me.
Where does your brother go to school?
He goes to Gilman School in Baltimore, Maryland.
So he following in your footsteps at Gilman. Any chance he's going to follow in your footsteps to Annapolis?
I don't know about that one. We'll have to see.
Just as long as he doesn't go to Army, right?
Right.
Thanks a lot, Ray.
Who's the better player, you or your brother?
I'll give it to him for this circumstance. I'll give it to him.